Welcome to Namaste today, your conscious breakfast for the day. I'm Christopher Witecki, your host and spiritual life coach at your service. And this audio blogcast is for Tuesday, January 31st, 2017. Welcome back, my friend, and Namaste. In this final day of January 2017, it's going to be kind of a two-part, almost bipolar day. We wake up in step 11, we go to sleep in step 12. I'll have the details of what that means in your zodiac weather. And later in your tea time, considering we're talking about the big picture and the re-evolution of humankind, I thought we'd talk about the Pluto generations today. But first, let's listen into your zodiac weather and your day's moodcast. This zodiac weather is for Tuesday, January 31st, 2017. Looking at the global consciousness, it'll be a sunny and compassionate day today. At least you'll be forced into some self-compassion by the end of the day. We wake up in step 11, we go to bed in step 12, and we wake up with the moon in Pisces and go to bed with the moon in Aries. Let's take a look at the planets. Well, today is actually going to be a pretty good day, but it might feel a little bipolar, my friend. As you wake up, you're likely feeling the love. It's the aftermath of Love Fest in the morning. The moon will have crossed over Venus at step 27, and you should wake up feeling inspired to move in your heart and go in the direction that you are called to go. Integrity rules the day, but I don't think it's a lack of integrity. I think if you crossed your T's and dotted your I's yesterday, you'll be waking up to feeling pretty good about your situation and where things are going. If you feel a little obsessed about things breaking apart or start to worry about things, you likely are not in integrity. Definitely spend some time and attention on yourself. But with the moon crossing over Venus, or having just crossed, you'll emotionally be open, I think, today, and open to your highest spiritual calling. At least that's the first half of the day under step 11. Right around noon Pacific time, so to speak, the degree will change to step 12. And at that point, you'll be on a different journey. The moon will also be moving into Aries at that time and heading for Mars. So the second half of the day may feel a little vulnerable. In fact, you may find that you have to cross an emotional bridge today. Cross some sort of rite of passage, something you are emotionally anxious about, something you are emotionally uncertain about. And this is where the moon crossing Mars can be a good thing to help you. But with the moon crossing Mars, it ultimately means emotions and ego will come together. That can form fear if not well managed. It's also a possibility of aggression and emotional ego outbursts. So basically, you want to channel this energy of the moon, meaning Mars, to give you the strength to face whatever sensitivities or whatever emotional bridge you have to cross. If you don't channel this Martian energy very well, you may find that you want to have a breakdown. Now remember, yesterday I talked about there's going to be general ego breakdowns between now and February 14th, up until Valentine's Day. And I think you're going to feel the first possibility of an ego temper tantrum in the next 24 hours, or this giant feeling to get on moving and having no time or patience for it. So we are basically coming into a whole new ego. This is the very, very beginning of it, and it's Mars and Aries for those people who are into astrology like myself. Now, adding some tension to this two-part day, the mind, Mercury, is at step 20, and it's now starting to tighten into two squares, a square with Uranus and a square with Jupiter. So this means that as we're trying to cope with opening up and crossing sort of rite of passage, our mind is hypersensitive to our feelings and control issues. Let's not forget Mercury is back in Capricorn. So your mind today may be a little paranoid, is what I'm saying, or obsessed about being in control. And this is really that Mercury is caught in a square and that you need to be mindful of your feelings. The square may cause some sort of fears of being strong enough. And Uranus has recently moved to step 21 in Aries, so we are all kind of having a weight added to our shoulders, calling for us to be stronger than we ever have before. Of course, this is the same strength that's pushing certain powers in the universe to go farther and farther with their, quote, strength as well. So everyone's getting an ego boost, but what it feels like is you're not strong enough or you don't have the energy to persevere. At least that's what the mind might be obsessing about. The other aspect where the mind might be obsessing has to do with getting your fair share and a fear of going down the wrong path that leads to failure. And adding fear to the whole equation, Black Lilith is at step 28, Scorpio, which basically means everyone is facing their fears about doing the wrong thing, manifesting the wrong thing, committing to the wrong emotion. So as you can hear, if you're feeling like a hot mess, you're right on target. That's wherever all of us are feeling today. And today it's really about coping with yourself and coping with your emotions across whatever emotional bridge you have to cross. What's happening in the big picture is by nurturing yourself and being compassionate to yourself today, you're basically walking into or through onto the next frequency. We recently stepped away from where we did not belong, and this is really us picking up our suitcase and starting to move forward. We're just so comfortable with the past and so comfortable with the way things used to be, it might throw or be an excuse for a little temper tantrum today. And even if you don't have a temper tantrum with the outer world, I would expect your inner prince or princess to have a little temper tantrum with yourself by the end of today. That's to be expected, so get your lollipops and get ready to bribe yourself into some serious joy. Now, yesterday in my weekly show, I talked about the human re-evolution, how I think humanity is going to reinvent itself. I gave some tips to what Lightwalkers need to do. Today, I thought I would talk about how each generation will come together for this re-evolution. So steep yourself some tea, and let's have our daily tea time. Hello, my friend, and welcome to our tea time. Today's tea time topic is the Pluto re-evolution. Yesterday in my Namaste Weekly, I talked about the human condition and society being at a place where it's now time for a human re-evolution. That we are ready to re-evolve into a better version of ourselves. And there are many approaches, there's many theories of what that means. But the human race is all feeling this pressure to innovate. And I said the timing can be timed with the planet Uranus. We can look at Uranus for the timing of that re-evolution. Well, today I want to talk about Pluto. Pluto is a dwarf planet that is the farthest away from the Sun as far as the planets that we are officially aware of. And it is the slowest moving planet. So it tells us astrologers where a generation is. And it tells us astrologers what a generation now is going through. Now, in the story of the United States, Pluto is very important right now because Pluto has returned to the sign that it was in when the United States was born. Therefore, the United States is about to go through its Pluto return. And that Pluto return happens technically March 10th, 2022. Now, again, no one has lived long enough to actually witness an entire Pluto cycle. It's over 149 years, so you'd have to be a very old man astrologer to know precisely what's going to happen. But it is my thinking that the country you know now as the United States of America will somehow, at least philosophically, die and be reborn. That is, any sort of major transit with Pluto, a death and rebirth. One would certainly think a Pluto return to itself, would be a death and rebirth. So in a way, we had Uranus being an innovative planet, showing us where the re-evolution is. Pluto tells us when things will actually die and be reborn, and it tells us what our generation is going to deal with. So looking a little bit into the future, I think in 2018, as I've reported before, the fire is going to kind of hit the griddle, and we're going to see sprouts of change about to happen. Things are going to go to where someone goes too far or something is presented, and suddenly the sprout of re-evolving will be a kind of fire in the air, if you will. Not literal fire, hopefully. We don't need that. In 2020, 2 years later, Pluto shows that the United States' reality will change forever. And it may change forever in a financial way, but it will likely be everything about what we value will change forever. And by 2022, we will be done with the change. So the new day will be here. When Pluto finally does return, the damage is done. It's all the energy leading up to that Pluto return where you do the real transformation. Now, Pluto's in Capricorn, which means we're going to be transforming what we decide, Capricorn, what the rules are, Capricorn, and how we do business in the world, Capricorn. So it is a Pluto-Capricorn transition, and it is a Pluto-Capricorn transition that was going on as far as where the power should be and where the money should be in the original American Revolution. In that time, it was money and power that were really influencing this change, and it will likely be money and power that influences this upcoming change. Now, you may ask, what do I have to do to face this upcoming change? Is there spiritually something I can do? Is there anything I can do to prepare? Where am I supposed to be in that day, and where am I supposed to stand inside myself? Well, here's the irony. You have to look at your own Pluto. In other words, in this Pluto return, whenever there is a death and rebirth, we must go to where our own Pluto is in our own chart and our own astrology. And our Pluto tells us really of our greatest vulnerability, and it tells us of our greatest potential strength. And of course, it is shared by a generation because Pluto goes through a sign for a very long time, 10 to 14 years within one sign. So a whole generation of people is born under Pluto. So I thought I would recap on the Pluto generations on Earth right now and what these generations' re-evolution is about. Now, in the very, very beginning, we had Pluto in Gemini, beginning of our current story, and that's the Ronald Reagan generation. This is the generation that ended up, some of them did end up fighting in World War II, some of them did not end up fighting yet. But Pluto in Gemini was the generation that started to put everything together, and that's one of the reasons why Reagan was so based on communications and connecting to people and getting the message out. Gemini energy is really World War I energy that was unresolved. And this generation of people actually did not protect their thoughts, Gemini. And because they did not protect their thoughts, their minds could be easily persuaded and controlled by propaganda and other sorts of things. So the Pluto-Gemini generation was learning when to open up and when to not open up their mind. And you could see that Reagan struggled with how his mind was either open or closed to certain situations, even through his presidency. Well, there's not many Pluto Geminis left, but there's a lot of Pluto Cancers on the planet. And the Pluto Cancers were the generations that actually went and fought World War II. This is a generation basically born between 1913 and 1939. And this generation had an issue and still has issues with protecting their feelings. So getting through your personal Pluto revolution, Pluto in Cancer, is to protect your feelings and protect the needs of your feelings. Now, the Pluto Cancers had babies known as the Pluto Leo generation. This is the baby boom, Pluto in Leo, born 1939 to 1958, roughly. And Pluto in Leo generation, the baby boom, they are a generation that failed to protect their hearts. So they were all born with a broken heart, did not know how to protect their hearts, went running out into the street, so to speak, as baby boomers, and they all had their hearts broken in this life. This generation, Pluto and Leo, this is the current generation that's running our country. Both Hillary Clinton and President Trump have Pluto and Leo and are part of this baby boomer generation. And this baby boomer Pluto and Leo generation probably has the biggest role in the Pluto return. I think if the Pluto Leos don't listen to their heart, we will be in trouble. The next generation is the Pluto and Virgo generation, born 1956 to 1971. Pluto Virgo generation needs to protect their health and their, basically their integrity. So staying true to who they are, staying true to their health. And this is actually Obama's generation. He was a Pluto Virgo president. The next generation, and Pluto Virgo is 1956 to 1971. Pluto in Libra was 1971 to 1983. This is my generation, by the way. We're kind of stuck in the middle. We're actually the grandkids. We're the kids of the Pluto Leo generation, and we're the grandkids of Pluto Cancer or Pluto Gemini. Now, the Pluto Libras from 71 to 83, These are people who fail to protect themselves in relationships and fail to protect their ability to stay balanced in a situation. So this is your out of balance, lost artist generation, but also the generation that when the Pluto shift happens in the future, if they protect what's fair and protect what's balanced, the Pluto Libras will help us through the transition. Next is the Pluto Scorpio generation, born 83 to 95. And the Pluto Scorpios are here to protect where the boundary is. So basically, the Pluto Scorpios are the ones who are picking a side. Maybe a side that the Pluto Librans are presenting, or maybe a side that the Pluto and Leos are loving or not loving. But the Pluto Scorpios basically are here to choose a side, and let's all hope they choose the side of their heart. They're born 83 to 95. Pluto in Sag, which is born 95 to 2008, Pluto in Sagittarius, this generation has to protect what they believe. And this is the interesting thing and how I'll end this little segment. The transition of the Pluto return really depends on where the millennials swing. So in the elections, for instance, the millennials pretty much swung with Bernie Sanders, but Trump not so much, Hillary not so much. It will be where Pluto and Sagittarius generation, where the millennials, what they decide to believe in, will be ultimately where things go and where things grow. So I think it's important for all of us to live true to our own Pluto re-evolution, to learn from the powers of Pluto and protect these particular parts of ourselves. Because if we do, at the time of the Pluto revolution, we will be safe and we will be useful to the planet, because we'll be holding up our end of the bargain of what we came up here to learn and to defend. All right, my friend. Well, I hope you enjoyed that little fascination of Pluto. I'll be back tomorrow with more. I hope you have a wonderful 2-part bipolar day. Remember, I love you, and live, love, be.
Live, love, be.